Good evening, everyone. We're so glad to have you back with us, and we have a lot of information for you. I have two wonderful guests this evening, and I'll introduce them in just a minute. But first thing I'd like to do is give you some information from our county clerk, Sam Merlino. She asked me if I would go ahead and provide this information to you. It's information you really need to know. If you'll follow this with me, sample ballots were mailed out to all active registered voters on April 29th. All official ballots were mailed out to active registered voters on April 30th. Both of these are expected to be in homes by the end of the week. Once you complete your ballot, you can return it by mail in the postage-paid envelope provided, or you can hand deliver it to our office in either Pahrump or Tonopah. An immediate family member can also deliver your voted ballot, but that family member will have to sign an affidavit before we will accept it. Ballots will be rejected if they are hand-delivered by anyone other than the voter or immediate family member, although there are certain medical exemptions. Our offices will be open during early voting and on Election Day for ballot drop-offs, and ballots will be issued for new registrations or registration changes. There will be no voting machine set up. You really need to understand that part. What you received in the mail is your official ballot. We've already received quite a few undeliverable ballots back in the mail due to bad addresses. If you do not receive your ballot this week, please call our office at 775-482-8127, or you can email it to me directly at smerlino@county.nye.nv.us to verify the address we have on file for you. If you need to make your address or political party change, you can go directly to either office to make an update until May 12th. And May 12th is today, which means if you haven't done it already, you've just missed that. But after May 12th and up to May 21st, you can make your changes online at www.registertovoteenv.gov, and a replacement ballot will be sent to you. If you make any updates after May 21st, you will have to appear in person with ID to get a replacement ballot. I hope as I was speaking, you were writing some of that information down so that you know exactly what to do for voting. It is very, very important that you understand that you have your ballots, and we expect everyone to participate in voting. That's your obligation. Okay, at this time, I'd like to introduce Marilyn Davis. She is the director of the Brunt Valley Museum. So I'm going to say good morning. Hi, Marilyn. How are you doing?
Good evening, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, we have a lot to talk about. I want to say this first about Brunt Valley Museum and Historical Society. They're open from 9 to 5 on Tuesday through Sunday. They're closed on Monday, which means she's working there all the time for you. And you need to at least go over and see what's going on. But we have a lot of things about the museum, things that I used to go over and look at all the time. And I have to apologize to Marilyn because I haven't been there for a while, just to go in and say hi to her sometimes. So, Marilyn, why don't you tell us about the museum, where it's located and so on?
Excuse me. Okay, the Brunt Valley Museum is located at 401 East Basin. So that's about 2 miles west off of 160.
Okay.
And like you said, we are open Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 5. Love to have everybody come in and check it out if you've not been to the museum.
You know, since I've been here, and I got here in August of '08, and I've been very interested in a lot of things in the museum. And I know you've had some exhibits, and some exhibits have changed. Now, those that remember way back when, there was a Lincoln exhibit, and there were other things that they had in the museum. And I know a lot of things have changed, but we're going to ask, when did you actually open, and what are some of the things that you've had, and what are some of the things you still have?
The museum actually an incorporation of the museum was 1992. And the museum opened in 1995 in the little railroad tie house that's on our property in 95. And they were only open a couple of days a week. It was all volunteers who took care of it. And then in '03, they were able to build the current building where most of the exhibits are, including the Lincoln. And the Lincoln was part of why we were able to get that building. And that was one of them. Things have been moved and changed. Harry Ford had a lot of his stuff that he had collected in the museum, and since it's been, moved or given back to the family, we also have, we had a beautiful doctor's carriage, and unfortunately the people who had loaned it to us needed to sell it, so that kind of moved out. And so we changed up the museum to add one of the biggest things, which is cotton. Cotton was here in the early 40s, and so we've added to that exhibit. And as we've gotten things in and just changed things about, it's evolved. We also have buildings outside that have been moved onto the property and are either have been restored, or we're doing some more restoring on them.
I like the fact that you say that it's a museum, but also a historical society, because some of the things you've been talking about are things in the history of Pahrump. And for people who really want to come out and learn about the history of Pahrump, they probably want to come out to your museum and see exactly what's going on. The other thing, I know that I've given a couple speeches there. Are you still having speeches every now and then about certain topics?
Well, we were doing the second Saturday. We wanted people to come and do lectures and let people know how Pahrump was formed, who the founding fathers were. Unfortunately, we did take a cut in our budget, which meant then we couldn't bring extra employees on to do it every second Saturday. So now we're kind of doing it maybe once a quarter. Depending on where our money is, depending on who we can get. Unfortunately, a lot of people want to get paid. And we are a 501c3, which means we're a nonprofit. So there's never money to pay people to come do lectures. They have to be volunteers. And we've had wonderful, wonderful people volunteer, such as yourself. We've had Tim Hafen. We've had lots of wonderful speakers. And unfortunately, we've just had to cut it back. Hopefully, we can start doing some more. It's something that people enjoy. And the history, learning history, is very important.
You know, when I look at that, and you mentioned Tim Hafen, of course, I have Tim Hafen scheduled for this TV show as well. Yeah. I always try to get Tim involved in things because he is, I consider him a Pahrump pioneer, and he can do a lot of things. When we talk about people coming to give lectures, I think it's so important. And when you mention the fact that people are asking to be paid, I guess I never thought about that, because we want to volunteer in our community. I just can't imagine people saying, I want to be paid to provide information for other residents of our community. So I like the fact that you have people lined up. I used to see that in the newspaper, in the Pahrump Valley Times, and when I saw that you had a speaker coming, I would just put it on my calendar, and I would hope that all the people around Pahrump, and as well as those that are in Clark County that want to come to Pahrump, could also come out and visit our museum.
Well, I like the lectures. I've learned so much from Tim, from different people who have come and done a lecture, that I think it's important to know where you're living, what it started as, what was here, what can you learn from the issues that they had, and the growth that we've developed. And it is wonderful to have people tell you, this was nothing but fields, and the different people who started here. I think it's a wonderful thing having lectures. We've also started doing art I've had a quartet come in and play. We've had the dancers out of Tacopa come in and do a Halloween type of thing, because art is also important, I think, for history and just the culture.
It is definitely important. And we want people to participate in all of the things that we have. You know, and you mentioned some of the other exhibits you have and some of the speakers that you have coming in. You have this available. How do you get the word out so that people know what's going on and they know what to look forward to?
Well, we used to be able to get articles in the newspaper. Absolutely, the TV station. Deanna does a wonderful job of interviewing when I tell her we have something. But we also have a Facebook page, which is Pahrump Museum. Well, it's actually Pahrump Valley Museum. We have a web page, which is PahrumpValleyMuseum.org. And that's where we're having to go now to get the information out.
And I'm going to ask you to repeat some of those, because I know I always ask everybody to write things down, because you're not going to remember everything that we say. And so I'm hoping you're still writing all this down, and when Marilyn gives you that Facebook page information or a web page, that you're writing it down, following up so that you know what's going on at the museum. What else do you have, Marilyn?
Oh, we have new things coming in. We've added new things. We talked a little bit about the Lincoln Room. Being part of what started our building, and unfortunately the Lincoln Room moved on a few years ago, so we're working on a steam train exhibit, and we're going to have an HO model steam train running.
Oh, this is going to be fantastic. This is something I guess I'm looking forward to, and I'll have to get back over to the museum because I want to see all the exhibits that you have. We have a lot more information about the museum that we're going to have in the next segment, so I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to be sure you have that pen and paper handy so that when Marilyn gives this information, you can write it down, you're ready for it, and you'll come out and see what they have at the Brunt Valley Museum. Come back and join us. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. We're here with Marilyn Davis. She is the director for the Brunt Valley Museum, and she's been going over a lot of information about it. Now, the first thing we want to do is I asked you to get pencil and paper and write down some of the information she had about the Facebook page and their web page. And so we're going to put that back on the screen so you can go ahead and make sure that you write that down so you can find out more about our Brunt Valley Museum. And you can go in personally and meet Marilyn and say, "Hi, Marilyn, I saw you on TV, and I'd like to know more about whatever it is that interests you." That's why we're here, to provide information for you. So, Marilyn, let's get back to some of the other things. As far as cost, you say you're a 501c3. So do you charge people to come into the museum?
No, we don't charge. We love for you to make a donation, and we do have a donation box. Buy something in the gift shop. We have a wonderful array of books, and different local artists have made different items. And be a member. You can join and be a member of the museum. That's how we keep those doors open.
When you say join, I had never heard that before. How do you join, and what is it you're really joining? And I'd like to have a possibility of doing that myself.
Okay, we have a membership application on our webpage that you can fill out. It's for a family, I think it's $25. Remember, I haven't been to the museum in 7 weeks. For a single person, it is $15. And over the year, that's for a year, if we have special events, or you'll get emails of the different items we have coming up. It's basically just for supporting your community, supporting the museum.
Okay, and those membership amounts you gave, those are annual fees?
Those are annual fees. We do have a lifetime membership, and I don't know it off the top of my head.
But they can find that out on the website, correct?
On the website. And the other thing I love about our website is we had Tim France and Ted Fay did a video that walked through the yard, walked through the buildings. So if you just want to pique your interest, go to our website and check out the video and see, it'll give you a little bit of what's going on at the museum.
Okay. Well, I know whenever I come into the museum, I always sign in. So how many people normally sign in? How many visitors? Talk about the people that come to the Brunt Valley Museum.
Well, we always ask everybody to sign in because we like to see where they're from, how many people we have every year. In 2019, we had 8,897 visitors.
8,000, great.
Yep. We had over 283 people from other countries. That would have been 20 different countries.
Okay.
Every state but 3. So that to me is an exciting, being in Pahrump, off the main drag, I think that's wonderful numbers.
So you've had visitors from 47 states come to the Brunt Valley Museum to see what it's all about.
Yes, we did.
I
And
think
they
that's
love
fantastic.
it. They absolutely love it.
I think it's fantastic. And I think if you come out to Brunt Valley Museum, you will love it too. So we're going to encourage you to come out, and like Marilyn said, you can take that virtual visit just on your computer and see exactly what it's all about, just to pique your interest. But then come out and see it. That's what reality is all about. I think it's so important that we do this, and we need to support the museum anyway. We definitely want it to be there. But Marilyn, how long have you been with the museum?
I have been with the museum, it will be 7 years in August. I've been the director for 5 of those years. When I started, I was a part-time clerk. I worked Tuesday through Sunday, 6 hours a day, and just worked my way kind of into everything till I fell in love with it. I love the job. I love being in the museum. I love talking to people. So it's been really fun for me.
I think you've shown that in the time that I've known you, and I'm so glad that we have the museum here, and I'm so glad we have you as the director. The other things, I know I've talked about this, the virtual visit that people can do, but what would I see when I come into the museum?
Well, you're going to see history of not only Pahrump, history of Nye County, Nevada. I have things from different families that you would normally see, dishes and different things, but we also have, I have a 4-foot amethyst geode. I have
A what?
4-foot amethyst geode.
Okay.
I have a Morgan silver dollar minted from Carson City. I have coins from the Binion Hoard. I have Howard Hughes' will from, that was part of the court case in Las Vegas. This is actual court document, copy of the court document. I have a military exhibit, which is near and dear to me because we have over as you know, we have over 9,000 retired military people. So that was something that was really important to me to get into the museum. We have another part of our museum is Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository information. And we are the only museum that has the information and the kiosks that people can come and learn what it was actually about.
You know, I was going to ask about any new exhibits. You've covered quite a few that I did not know existed there. So those are things that I'm going to encourage everyone to come out and see exactly what Marilyn's talking about, because these exhibits are there, and they're for you to see. And again, there's no charge. They are looking for donations because they like to keep the doors open, keep the lights on, but they have those things there. Now, Marilyn said she's got the military exhibit, and I have to get back because I want to see that again. And she did mention that there's over 9,000 retired military here. It's not quite accurate. 9,000 veterans, many are retired, but not all. So I know some of the veterans out there say, well, I only served 2 years. I'm not retired. No, you're not, but you're a veteran. You wore the uniform, and that's what she's talking about. When she talks about that 9,000 number, there are a lot of veterans here, and many are retirees. So we're happy here. We love Pahrump. We love going to our museum, and I'm going to encourage you to get out there and go as well. Marilyn, what else do you want to tell us about the museum?
If you would like to make donations, we are going with my military. One of the things that I'm looking for is I have no uniforms from the women. Everything I have every branch, but I have nothing from the women. I always need volunteers. We have weeds that need to be pulled. We have things that need to be repaired. So volunteer, come in, few hours, couple hours. Would love to have people come in and help. And while you're in helping, you're also going to be learning, because if you're touching cases and doing different things, you're going to learn what's going on. I love telling people, bring a group in. We get red hats. We've gotten senior assistant living groups, RVers. The RVers that come here, they book time with me. I give them a lecture about Pahrump and about the museum, and then we do a little tour. So there's lots of different items that people can do to come in and enjoy. Plus, we're air conditioned, so it's nice during the summer. Come get a nice, cool museum, air conditioned building when you're looking for something to do.
Nice, cool environment, and get to see all the things she just talked about. Now, I agree completely with Marilyn when she talks about the veterans. And you know, I talk about veterans all the time, but we have so many female veterans in our community, in our county, in our town. And so lady veterans, female veterans, I'm going to encourage you to go by and see Marilyn. If you want to donate a uniform or donate your time, just so people know that, yes, you served as well. We would not be a comparable military without our females that do so much to make our military what it is today. So we want to thank each and every one of you, males and females, but the females seem to take a back seat when I say that. When you see the veterans walking around town with their veteran hats on, you don't see that many women wearing hats. And I've talked to women about this, and they give very varied reasons as to why they don't. But I'm going to encourage every one of you, everyone watching this program tonight, to find a female veteran and talk to them about the service that they provided to their country, and ask them why they don't wear a hat. Then you'll get to know firsthand exactly what Marilyn's talking about. But you need those uniforms, ladies. So bring those uniforms out that maybe don't quite fit as well anymore, that you want to bring out and donate to the museum. I think that would be perfect. Marilyn, what else do you have?
Let's see. One of the recent things I got is a life-size horse that's in the museum. And it was painted by local artists. They painted it. It was supposed to be an art gallery in '07, and it never happened. So the person who was storing the horse said, would you like to put this in the museum? So we have this horse, life-size horse, with all sorts of different paintings on it, and it's just amazing. We've got buildings outside that are original buildings. I have 2 houses that are built out of railroad ties from the Tonopah Tidewater. One is a guest house. One is Perry Bowman's original house that the family lived in. I've got the little red schoolhouse that they went to school in the early 40s, and I have the Pahrump store from the early 1900s that you can all go into any of those buildings, plus a lot of farming equipment.
Okay, with everything that we've talked about so far, I want to go back over and let you know when you can go. I know Marilyn has said it, but I want you to write it down. They're open Tuesday through Sunday. They're open from 9 to 5 every Tuesday through Sunday. They're closed on Monday, and we're going to encourage you to come out and see what they have at the Pahrump Valley Museum. Come out, join it, become a member. That's something I'm going to do later today. I'm going to become a member because I'd like to hear more and more about what's going on. We want to make sure that you've written everything down. I want to thank Marilyn for being with us today and let you know that we'll have another guest coming on soon. Thank you. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. We have so much information, but I do want to remind you that I read the information earlier from our county clerk, Sam Merlino, about voting, and I hope you got all of that information. But if you have any question at all, call the county clerk's office, 775-482-8127. If you have any questions about voting, about the ballots received, about anything else like that. Our clerk's office is quite busy. But for this segment and the next segment, I have Maureen Sapala. She is, keynote speaker extraordinaire. But let me give you some background on Maureen. First of all, she's a professional keynote speaker. She's an author, presentation skills coach, and she's the founder of High Altitude, High Attitude Strategies. Her background, oh man, if you go to her webpage, you'll see a lot of information there, and we're going to have that up as well. You can go to her webpage. But her background, she's a former NASA engineer. She's got a degree in mechanical engineering from University of Notre Dame, and other successes in direct sales. And if you listen to her, yep, I'll buy it in a heartbeat. Fitness instructor, motherhood, and so many more. There's so many things going on, but the first thing I want to say is, Maureen, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Tom, for having me. It's a treat, a delight, and a joy.
Well, I'm so glad to have you with us this evening, and we have so many things we want to talk about. But before we get into that, and before I ask you any other questions, give us an overall view of exactly what it is you plan to cover tonight.
I've been a speaker for probably 10 years, and about 7 or 8 years ago, I stumbled on this topic that literally lit my soul on fire. Prior to that, I was speaking on leadership topics. I do have a background in engineering. I worked at NASA for many years. I spoke about leadership topics not because I was a good leader, but because I was led by a great leader. But leadership topics, as important as they are, I needed something that really grabbed my soul, really something to set me apart. And I stumbled on this topic called Imposter Syndrome. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you've heard about it. A lot of my audience might not have heard about it, but when I describe it, it's like light bulbs go off. They're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's who I am. Imposter Syndrome is a secret self-doubt that strikes smart people, causing them to discount the fact that they're smart. It's an irrational thought pattern that basically makes people think, oh my gosh, I'm not as smart as everybody thinks I am. It's irrational, it's illogical, it's typically untrue, and it holds smart, successful people back. Even though they have advanced in their career, they still feel not qualified. They feel in over their head. They feel like they're just not measuring up. So I teach people how to overcome that, to feel competent and confident and have more influence, and to just be excited about that, to feel great about being great.
Well, you know, when you mention those things, and I agree with you. You know, when I heard you speak to the Brunt Valley Rotary Club back in November, and I thought it was just so outstanding that I needed to have you here on the TV show, because I think more people need to hear exactly what it is you're talking about. But in addition to all the things you talk about, you're also an author, and you have some books out there that I'm hoping that, you know, somebody's going to contact you and say, look, I'd like to get a copy of this book or that book. I'd like to learn more about some of the things you're talking about. And when you talk about the imposter syndrome, yes, when you spoke about that, initially I was thinking, you know, is that really possible? But as soon as you start describing exactly what it was, that's me. Hey, yes, it hits you so hard. So I'm going to let you go ahead and explain more so our audience will understand exactly what it is we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. Tom, I tell you, you just proved exactly what I experience all the time. People feel like fakes. They feel like frauds. They feel like imposters in their career, even though the data says they really are a rock star in their role, in their position. They've got success and accolades and accomplishments and awards, but yet they look back at it and they think, oh no, that really wasn't me. It was an accident. I was in the right place at the right time. The stars were aligned that day when they hired. I remember when I got hired at NASA, right out of college, I didn't have a 4.0 GPA. So I really thought that NASA hired me because I was a girl, not because I had any marketable or useful skills to the agency. Now that's not true. There was a portion of it because I did fit the mold. They needed a woman, but I still had skills that they needed. I was good with people. I have big picture capability. I had great analytic skills. I'm a good researcher. So I did fit the mold. We discount those great skills in our own life. And when we discount, and sometimes the way we discount it is by comparing ourselves to other people. So we compare ourselves to other people, discount ourselves, and then write off the rest of our own skills and abilities, thinking if I don't measure up in this area, I must not measure up in any area, so I must not measure up at all. It's so destructive. When I train people and teach people to overcome it, I have them throttle it back a bit, and I have written about it in my book. I do have 4 books. One book is about imposter syndrome, and I gifted you one this morning. It's called Pushing Your Envelope. And I teach 5 strategies how to overcome the imposter syndrome. And the first one is to recognize the symptoms. Understand how that thought process manifests itself. Where did it come from? Who does it affect? It affects people in high education positions, highly influential positions, entrepreneurs, all levels of an organization, technical people, creative people, basically really accomplished people. It affects so many of us. So, the first strategy is understanding what it is and realizing that it's not a disease. It is something that can be overcome. It's a thought process problem. So to overcome the thought process problem, you just change your thought process, which is what I teach people how to do.
When you mention that, you've talked about who it can affect, and it affects all of us, but how does it really originate? I think you've given us some hints to that, but give us more on that. How does it really originate?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tom. It does come from many different areas. Oftentimes comes from our childhood, which explains a lot of maladies in our world. And it's no fault about how we were raised. It's just the fact that we were raised by human beings, and we were raised by imperfect people. Maybe, and I know in my world, I was raised to have very high expectations, always hit the mark, get the A's, knock it out of the park. So for me, I was a perfectionist. And anything less than that, I feel like I don't measure up. And so that has plagued me. Other people on the flip side may have been raised with a sense of anything you do is amazing. The very act that you breathe is worthy of awards, celebration, and applause. And so if you go through life thinking, well, just being here makes me good, and then you look around and you think, wow, so many other people seem more accomplished. Ooh, I thought I was up here and maybe I'm really not. Maybe I'm down here. And so there's this mismatch. So it kind of comes from that. It can also come from, even as an adult, the corporate culture that you are a part of. If you are in a culture that is so focused on competition or awarding the high achievers, the outcome instead of just the effort, it's easy to feel like you don't measure up. It affects people in academic world, especially in higher academics, people that professors, teaching assistants, research assistants, where the push is to create information. The race to publish, and you look around and think, well, they're published more than I am. They're publishing faster than I am. And so it's this constant, I don't measure up. It is pervasive, and it is so destructive, but we can't overcome it.
Now, that's why I have to ask the question, is it the same as lack of confidence or low self-esteem?
Yeah, people think that it is, but the thing is, people that get themselves to a position of influence, they have accomplished a lot of things, they've accumulated a lot of awards and degrees and titles. It took confidence to get there, but they don't lack the confidence. They don't lack the certainty that their next step is going to accomplish something good for them, which is what confidence is. Confidence is being certain of that next step. Imposter syndrome is a limit of confidence, not a lack. It's like, I've gotten this far. Ooh, I don't know if I can get that far. I've never done that before. There's not a script. I've not been coached. I don't have the agenda. I'm not really sure. In fact, I look behind me and I think, well, it was luck that got me to this position. I don't know if it's going to be luck that carries me to the next position. So confidence is part of the equation, but it's not a lack. It's a limit. So I teach people to push through their envelope, their limit of confidence.
You know, when you mentioned that, and I was thinking as an officer, as a sergeant, when I was a sergeant, I was very confident in exactly what my skills were. I knew my job. I felt very confident. As an officer, and now I'm supposed to be a leader, I've got my degree, and I've got a master's degree, and then later on, even with a doctorate, I'm put in a position and I start wondering, can I really do this job? Now, of course, I don't say that because I'm supposed to let people think I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so we go on with that. But, you know, we have the question, how do you know you have imposter syndrome? How do you really realize that? And I know we won't be able to cover it in this session. We're going to have to cover it in the next session. But there's so many things that people need to know. So they need to be able to contact you and say, hey, here's some questions I had. I've listened to your presentation, but I'd like to know more. So we need your phone number. I'm telling everybody, write these phone numbers down because you need to get in touch with Maureen and find out more. Just ask her. She's there. She's got the books. She's got the background. She's got all the information you're going to need to get through this. Because imposter syndrome is real. I didn't believe it when she first stated it, but the more and more I've heard about it, I know it's real. And it's something, she's going to tell us how in the next session, how to recognize it, how to get through it, how to overcome it, and that's what we're all about. So come back and join us in the next session. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us, and this is the final session, and I tell you every time we have the show, I always hate to have the last session because we have so many items and so much we want to cover, and we just don't get there. Now, I have Maureen Sapala. She is, I'm just going to say she's a NASA engineer, and that's her background. But we've covered so many different items. We're really talking about imposter syndrome, and we need to move on from where we are, but every question that you might have, be sure to contact her. She's an author, she writes books, and you can also read the books and get more information. But I'm going to ask her some questions and let her go on from there. What is the impact on each one of us suffering with imposter syndrome?
Probably the biggest thing about imposter syndrome, it is the single biggest roadblock to keeping great people from really performing and living to their full potential. It keeps great people small and hidden. There are 6 symptoms of imposter syndrome, and I know before the break we briefly alluded to them. One of the symptoms is something called the imposter cycle, which is basically vacillating between over-preparing and procrastinating on a job that you have to get done, and then you do the job, and you do a great job. Everybody's excited about it, but you are stressed because you think, oh my gosh, They almost figured out I didn't know what I was doing. Oh no, here comes another project. And so you live in this loop, this constant cycle of over-preparing and over-performing and stress and anxiety because you have to perpetuate the success. So it's one of the symptoms. The other symptoms are things like being a perfectionist, an elite perfectionist. Like, not do I just have to be perfect, I have to be like at the top of the heap perfect. I have to be the most famous perfect. Things like using charm and humor to deflect conversation away from a perceived idea that you're not that smart. If I keep people laughing, they won't think I'm stupid. So when you talk about the effects, it keeps people hidden behind these facades, these seemingly imperfect and unreal masks. But the thing is, it really is who you are. You really are charming. You really are funny. You really are a hard worker. You really are good under deadlines. There's nothing improper or inauthentic about it. It just is who you are. But in your mind, then, it stops you from taking on other goals and other opportunities. And you stop short of putting in for the promotion or taking on that new job or having that hard conversation with somebody. It keeps you small.
I guess, you know, with everything you've given, you're giving us some ways to overcome it. But what else can we do if we really want to overcome this? Because we don't really want imposter syndrome. We want to be able to say we can do what we think we can do. But, yeah, what else can we do to overcome it?
I think the most significant thing, aside from understanding what imposter syndrome is, probably the most significant thing and the easiest thing is to check your own thought process. When you understand the symptoms, all of a sudden you know, oh, there, I see, I'm in that symptom. For example, somebody who doesn't like to delegate, which sounds like, oh, you know, they just like to do it themselves. Well, part of it is a pride thing. Oh, if I'm smart, I really shouldn't have to ask for help. Well, if it's a symptom of imposter syndrome and now you're like, oh, not delegating, ooh, okay. Why am I not delegating? How can I overcome that? What would happen if I delegated? When you delegate, gosh, you bring all kinds of other people into the excitement. You let people use their gifts. You offload your load. It's good all the way around. It's got nothing to do with feeling like a fake. It's got everything to do with spreading the load and doing it in a way that gives other people with the chance to participate and also, you know, also unloading you. So check your thought process, evaluate, why am I doing that? Why am I making that assumption? Why am I overworking so hard? Why am I afraid that if I'm silent in a conversation, they'll think I'm stupid? That's illogical and ludicrous. So evaluate your thinking and then choose to act in spite of it. So it's a cognitive process. It is a step-by-step, disciplined, intentional, evaluating your thinking, questioning your thinking, and then acting in response to that thinking, doing something different.
Now, is it possible to completely eliminate it?
That's kind of the dirty little secret. You can't completely eliminate it. I mean, I am... okay, so my background's engineering. Now I'm a professional speaker. And I think to myself, kind of what you said about yourself, Tom, when you were talking about your career transitions, who am I to do this? Can I do this? And that resonates in my head. So you don't always overcome it. You don't completely eliminate it, but you can alleviate it. And that's huge. Sometimes a little bit of self-doubt is a good thing. Sometimes it gives you a chance to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath and evaluate it a little rationally. Do I really need to go down that path? So while we don't completely eliminate it, alleviating it is huge, and that is progress.
Now, what can we expect to experience when this is, if it's quieting down in some respects?
I think the biggest thing is, and when I say this to people, excuse me, I teach people to match their confidence excuse me, I teach people to match their confidence to their competence so they can have greater influence, which is really, I mean, that's the bottom line. We want to feel significant. We want to feel we have a role, that we have an impact. We want to feel secure in our relationships. All of that suffers if we let this crazy imposter syndrome roll around in our head. When you are released from it and you can match your confidence to your competence and have more influence, everything gets better. You take greater risks. You embrace failure as a path to success, not a boundary to success. You feel more comfortable in your skin. You are less concerned about what does everybody think, because you get to the point where you really don't give a rip. I mean, you do, but you don't. You can experience greater freedom, enjoy the career that you wanted to love, and just do more exciting things. I never would have thought I could write a book. I'm an engineer. We are not known for our verbal and written skills. And here I am, a professional speaker and a 4-time author. I would not have done that if I was still in that thinking small, oh, who am I to do that? I can't do that mode.
Maureen, that's quite impressive. But how can people learn more about you and your resources? You've talked about your books that you've written. You've talked about some of the other things you've done. But people need to know who you are and how they can get in touch with you and how they can find more about the resources that you can provide.
Thanks, Tom. My website is maureenz.com. That is the home base of all of my resources. That's where you can learn about me, learn about my keynotes, learn about my books that I've written. I've written 4 books. They're all on Amazon, by the way, so you could Google them on Amazon. One, interestingly enough, I just moved here from to the Vegas area from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a big Ohio State fan, and I wrote a book about Ohio State football, the history of Ohio State football, which is funny because I didn't even go there. I went to Notre Dame, so I'm an Irish Buckeye. But on my website, in addition to learning about my keynotes and my training and the books, I'm really most excited about something I just recently launched called the Fraud-Free Framework. It's a 7-video series with an accompanying workbook, a PDF that you could download, and it walks you through my 5 steps, my 5 strategies that I call this fraud-free framework to help you overcome imposter syndrome. So the information is on my website, and the reason I created that was when I do my keynotes and workshops and when I speak to crowds and people and clients, everybody comes up to me and says, "This was great. What next? What next?" So this is the what next. It's the self-paced program that you can do in the privacy of your own home, in your office. Well, these days, home is office for most of us. Do it the privacy of your own room and walk through these strategies to help you overcome your imposter syndrome.
Maureen, I am so glad to have you as a guest today. You've provided so much information, a wealth of knowledge here on imposter syndrome, what we can do to, I won't say eliminate it, but at least to live with it and understand what it is that makes us tick. So I'm going to encourage everyone to go to your website, find out more about you and more about imposter syndrome, more about the books that you have that can help each and every one of us. So again, I'm hoping everybody is writing all this down so that they can either give you a call or get a connection with you so they can learn more. We need to do that. So I want to just thank you for being here this evening. I really thank you because, like I said, after you gave the presentation to the Brunt Valley Rotary Club, I was just impressed, and I thought our entire viewing audience needed to hear what I heard and find out more. And I hope all of you watching this program tonight are saying the same thing. This lady is phenomenal, and I want to learn more. So I'm going to contact her. I'm going to look into all of this information, maybe even pick up a couple of her books, or all 4, and go from there. Maureen, anything else before we before we end tonight?
Oh, Tom, it's been a treat to be here with you. I have enjoyed learning more about you, our common background of military. I mean, I wasn't in the military, but when I worked at NASA, the military was our biggest customer. So I'm like-minded with you on that, and I just am so grateful that you invited me to be here and to get this message of overcoming imposter syndrome out to a world that really does need to hear it.
Thanks again. And I'd like to let everybody remember that we are practicing all the things for this coronavirus situation. We are separating ourselves and doing all the things that we're supposed to do, following all the guidelines. And we're going to stay safe, and we'd like you to stay safe and come back and join us for our next show. Thank you.